6:30, we'll call the meeting to order. Approve the minutes of May 12th. And on that, there's going to be adjustment on the time on the adjournment. It should be 7:34 versus 6:34.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with the adjustment on the time for May 12th, 2025.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Just the agenda?
I'd like to add something.
Yeah.
Can we have a discussion to temporarily rescind the permission to trap on the town property regarding the beaver situation down on Main Street that we talked about in the last meeting?
You want that like under 1A?
Wherever you want to put it.
1A, that'll work.
We should have a second on the motion if we want to have in the vote on that, to make sure you can have it.
A second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Okay, so our discussion, then we can consider a vote. Here, citizens. Wendy?
I appreciate you bringing the topic of the beaver up tonight. I know it's been an ongoing discussion, not only since the last meeting, but amongst town people and the research we've been doing about the topic recently. Just the little bit of history for those who are here is we discovered that there was trapping in our backyard about a couple of weeks, excuse me, I should rephrase that, not our backyard as in my property, in the wetland behind my house. About a couple of weeks before the topic was brought to your attention. And my initial concern was, oh, my kids net salamanders down there and they kayak. And so we looked a little bit into what was happening. I know there'd been some concern about the possibility that having that wetland may attract mosquitoes because people think water and they think mosquitoes. But in actuality, not having that wetland there is much more likely to increase mosquitoes. When we moved in more than a dozen years ago, that beaver dam was taken out, and I have never seen mosquitoes so terrible as it was then. Now that it is a vibrant ecosystem again, the moving water, the fish, the birds eat the mosquito eggs. And so we don't have a mosquito issue down around there in Main Street at all any longer, now that that has come back. The other concern that's been expressed often is this idea that having a beaver dam may raise water levels. And actually having that be a wetland area so that there is a dam and pond and a space for water to go, although it may seem counterintuitive, is actually helpful for flood mitigation. Because right on the other side of that is the Black River, and we all know the Black River has the capacity to rise right up to Main Street behind us. But the fact that that wetland can stay saturated allows it to absorb more water when that does happen. It also helps prevent erosion because it doesn't cause a rush of water coming through when that happens. And the beaver dam itself is lower than the level where all of the houses are, which means in practicality that when the river does actually rise, it goes right over that beaver dam. That is not holding water to a point that ever reaches houses. So a couple of the concerns we've heard in the neighborhood about why people might want to change that ecosystem are actually counterintuitive to the effect that it might cause. So I just appreciate in this whole process that you're being willing to look at it again so that we can make sure we pursue the best plan for everyone.
We'll discuss more of that on 1A under old business.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else for your citizens?
Yeah, Zachary McNaughton also live.
If Zach, if it has anything to do with the beavers, we'll discuss that on 1A.
You'll have a public comment.
Yes, we'll do it all then. Okay, we're going to new business. Planning Commission update on subdivision regulations.
Great, thanks for having me. We finished our draft subdivision regulations. That's after working on them for about 2 years, 2 public forums, and we had our hearing, planning commission hearing last Wednesday. There was nobody in attendance, So as far as we're concerned, it's ready to send off to the select board. So the process is, we send it off to the select board. They have 120 days to have their hearing. And then they can either send it back to the planning commission for revisions. They can vote on it and adopt it, or they can send it to the public for a vote. And of course, if select board did decide to adopt it, you could have 5% of the citizens file a letter, so a petition to have a vote. So that's about it. So that puts it into the beginning of October for your hearing. We tried to have our hearing before select board got into the budget season. So that would put the latest you could have it would be mid-October. And then from there, possibly be ready to vote by November or town meeting, whichever the select board decides. And that's about it. If you have any questions or comments, I'll be happy to entertain them.
Any questions or comments for Tim? That's pretty good.
Thanks for all the work, Tim.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll move on to Ludlow Police Chief here to discuss coverage. Chief, the floor is yours.
Oh, wait, 1A's Beaver.
No, I moved that down to old business.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I,
Sorry about that.
the last few days and got some numbers for you. They're rather large, but it's a fair assessment of what we could do. I made copies for everybody if you want.
Great.
Thank you, sir.
So, sure. I went high with the numbers because it's better to go high than start low and then have to go higher later on. I started with the 5-year step plan because it's kind of the kind of officer I'd want to have some experience. And if I'm being honest, you do it right, you'd really need 2 officers on all the time. But I understand small towns, we do what we can with what we have. But this is a semi breakdown of what I could do. The benefit package price there, I think that was a single payer or a single person, so it would go up some if it was a family or 2-person. I do highly recommend that town of Cavendish apply for a COPS grant. They are out, it's $125,000 for the 3-year commitment. So that would take some of the chunk away from the yearly cost of the officer's salary and benefits.
Does the town apply for that, or does the police department? I thought the
So
police department.
if we were gonna do it, we would have to be policing agency for the town. So, because we're not currently, it would have to go through the town. We have, I think, until the July 1st is when everything's gonna be in. So it's kind of a time crunch, but it is a great grant. They used to pay 100% for 3 years with everything, but now.
Is that 125 per year or
No.
125 over 3 years?
Over 3 year
Okay, that's what I
period,
thought.
and it's a 4-year commitment, so the last year the town will be on the foot for the rest of it.
So it's like 45-ish, 42-ish thousand per year that you get through the grant.
Yes, sir. It pays for officer salaries and officer benefits, if there's enough. And then I think you can request a little bit more, like 2% or 5% or something, based off of economic need.
I'll just say, policing, you know, we all know it's expensive, we all know we need,
Right, we gotta do
but
something.
we don't have this.
Right.
I think it's, personally, I think it's great to have the conversation started now, and I think it might be a little late for us to think about it, but having numbers for next year, which will change a little bit, but at least,
And like, for the vehicle and equipment, like, I went high. I mean, there's something we could do. Like I said, I started high because it's easier to come back with, actually, we can go for this. It's just my theory on that. But, you know, that's a fully outfitted vehicle that's brand new.
but would that be a dedicated to Cavendish vehicle?
With the cabinet control.
Did you come with option B? So this is full-time, 7 days a week?
40-hour week, yeah, it's based on
40-hour
40-hour week. And the salaries in there, we have 12 and a half, another, at least 12 and a half, 13 and a half holidays, which are at a special rate. So that doesn't include that. And the average officer works probably 2 to 4 hours a week of overtime. That's just how it works sometimes. Unfortunately, we can't predict when crime's gonna happen, and it always happens at the end of shift. So there's that as well.
Well, I know myself as a board member, I appreciate you getting these figures to us.
Yeah.
And I wish we had more time to work on it, but I think it's something that we need to work on between now and next budget season.
Definitely.
And go forth probably before the voters to see if that's what they want to do. And also that will give us time to apply for the grant too.
You know, we need to do something because in getting where we're waiting at an accident scene or any call we have, the fire department goes, we're waiting 45 minutes to an hour for a trooper. And that's not acceptable any longer. It's our safety out there.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Like I said, to do it right, really want to. Because I was fully staffed for about a month and a half, and then I had somebody out and just broke their hand. So, yeah, if you have any questions, my email's on there. My manager, Mike and Dave, know how to get hold of me.
Well, I appreciate it.
Thank you. That's something we should look at for next year's budget. Okay, Green Mountain Power to present summer projects.
Good night.
Night, Charlie.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Tim Jones from Green Mountain Power. Also with me tonight is Carol Weston, VP of Grid Resiliency and also part of our leadership team. Here informally tonight, so thank you to Rick for getting us on the agenda. We're out right now sharing an exciting news about a program that we're working in. It's called the Zero Outage Initiative. It was granted to us by the state last fall. It gives us 2 years, basically to the fall of 2026, to identify our worst performing circuits in the state, make a plan to redesign them, rebuild them, and then go ahead and execute on those plans and get those worst performing circuits back in line with reliability that we can all be happy with and stand behind. So again, just here informally tonight, so a project that we would likely come back to the town probably later this summer is to rebuild our CVG 65 feed, which comes off 106 and feeds the Tarvell Hill area. A number of customers in there, so that's really kind of how that circuit got to be number 4 on our 20 worst performing circuits. So I'm probably not sharing anything with you that you don't already know by living here, but part of that is length of miles, number of customers, and number and duration of outage history. So we put that together as a calculus, and that's how your circuit makes the list. So really what we're doing right now is preliminary. We have a third-party company design firm that we're working with, so you might see them out wrapping poles with ribbon or pounding stakes in the ground. Again, just prospectively trying to figure out how do we refeed that line, essentially using Tarbell Hill, East Road, and some of the other roads, and getting that line out of some pretty nasty cross-country areas that we have right from Route 106 all the way up, bad enough, but obviously we're through a wetland and cross some really terribly remote areas in there. So that will be our goal, is to come back. Really what we've been doing the last year or 2 years, really before the program had a name, is we've been burying a lot of our underground power on the back roads of the community. So we started in Townsend, so we've essentially done from Townsend all the way to Dover. We spent last summer and we'll spend this summer also down in Halifax, Vermont. So what we do is we sort of gang together as much work as we can on a circuit, and basically burying the lines is our highest and best storm hardening technology that we have today, other than rebuilding overhead and putting up taller poles and stronger overhead wire. Getting into these rural areas in the back dirt roads is really kind of an ideal situation for us to propose to bury the lines in the road. So as part of that discussion, before we come back, we'll certainly reach out to your highway department with some draft design looks. Get out there on the ground, drive around. We know how vitally important they are, and their opinion is to the town making decisions on how we operate in your road right away. So that would really be the ask of the town, is to allow us to put our infrastructure in the road. And certainly we'll have more technical details when we came back with a formal project. And like I said, you can share with your road foreman out there as well. But just welcome any questions you have, or certainly, like I said, we'll be back probably later this summer in the fall with a real project.
Do you typically, when you bury them in the road, do you typically go under or over a culvert, or depends on how deep the culvert is?
Exactly. So I think 3 feet or less we're typically going through. So we have a program by which we would come back to the town with an agreement and just discuss what we see in the road and how we would propose to manage through, around, or over. If the culvert's bigger, 4 feet or over, or if it's open water, we'll typically just go up and over with one span, come out of the ground, clear it, and go back underground on the other side. But we know, town roads are a valuable asset, so I think we have some strategies that we can share that, and now that we have proof of concept, we can either, share directly or invite you out to one of the jobs that we're doing and have a closer look. So basically it's direct bury. So we have a large machine with a big 10-foot cutting wheel on the back of it that direct buries the conduit right into the ground, anywhere from 50 inches up to a minimum bury depth of 3 feet. So it's quite a machine. And also with our joint utility partners, obviously we have telecoms and fiber on those poles as well. So we are actually putting a spare duct in the ground as an enticement for our joint utility partners to join us. And that's the real goal, is in order to really abandon everything that you see cross country, we need to get everybody to the new corridor that we're going to create. So that's another aspect of it as well, working with them to get them to come along as well.
Plastic conduit?
It's HDPE, I guess, the orange. But the conductor is single, extruded conductor, again, HDPE, covering seamless, not like the old school where you dig a trench, stick conduit and pull the conductor. This goes right in the ground, direct bury.
Any comments or for him?
I'm excited about that.
Sounds great.
Yeah, there's a couple people right here that live on Turtle Hill.
Yeah, good for that.
Well, great, thanks again.
Thank you.
We'll see you again. Have a
Thank
nice
you.
summer.
Appreciate you
Thank
coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Number 4, road discussion on 413 Brook Road. Just be like a 10-minute, after 10 minutes, we'll move on. We've been through this over and over, so we're gonna set a time.
Resolved in 10 minutes.
So we'll see, depends on where we go. Mike, you got
Let's try to get there. We've read the stuff, we've sat through the meetings, we don't need to go over it again.
No.
We need to come up with what's gonna work best to solve it. Yes?
So, first of all, I would like to say that, you didn't say there was a 10-minute limit on any of the other issues that were going on.
We haven't discussed those before.
And this has been going on now for 13 years. So my goal with this meeting was to hear your timeline and your remedy. That's really what I had hoped.
So We offered at one point a remedy that you didn't like.
Right.
And what
I'm
was
just-
that remedy?
Yes,
What was the remedy?
It was I think when the state went up and looked, and it might even been when the select board there as well, was a ditch on your side, like a bigger, more formal ditch.
and I'm just asking, you didn't like that, right? Okay,
No,
I'm just,
yes, you're not gonna take more of my property when the issue is not where my property line is, the issue is how the road was reconstructed. Okay, so that's not a reasonable explanation. So I would just like to also know, does the select board feel that the town is responsible to fix this? That's the first and foremost question I'd like to have answered.
if the town was responsible, then you'd have to accept what the town was gonna do. So we're trying to come to an agreement of what can we do together? You're a person who lives in this town. We don't wanna have a relationship with you that's volatile.
I appreciate that.
So I'm trying to ask. Okay, we tried at one point, but you didn't wanna cut into your property. I'm just asking. I feel the same way. Okay. At one point, didn't we do something with the road that you didn't like because it did something to your driveway? I can't remember. Did it?
Your decision, or the theory was to add more material to the road to make it even higher.
Okay. And that didn't work well for you.
If the road is already too high, how would making it higher make it any better?
I think that time, if you don't mind if I.
No.
Go right ahead.
It wasn't that they added, I don't think, but what they did is they pitched the road to go away from your property, which raised the side of your driveway probably a foot or so.
Okay. Really what it comes down to is the road has to be put back to its original height before Irene. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. If anyone cared to take a ride by my road, you would see 3 sections where road material is now running up onto my front lawn in 2 sections. A Band-Aid culvert that you put in a while ago is completely covered, sand, doesn't work anymore. My driveway apron has so much debris and crevice marks from water coming down. Okay, it's just not, it's not realistic for me to have to accept that. Okay, and I know that there are things you don't want mentioned in open forum, but there's a lot of history here that needs to be, that should be resolved. You know, and if you don't want to talk about it right now, I'm fine with that. But there are opportunities where this could have been taken care of and should have been taken care of. Had representatives done their job and gotten back in touch with me, we probably wouldn't be here right now. Okay, but you said I'm a citizen, you didn't want a volatile, environment. I agree.
Okay.
And so that's why I don't understand as a citizen why I wasn't afforded an opportunity for a callback or to accept my calls after the July floods, when the culvert washed out at the end of my road. And instead of bringing in more material, all you had to do was scrape the road and bring material down, and it would have fixed everything after 12 years of me complaining from Irene. It really was a quick fix.
So right now, you feel the road is too high?
By 3 feet, at least.
Jeez.
And at one point, and again, I'm just asking,
Sure.
you had the road, you did it yourself or hired somebody to
I
adjust the
tried
road?
lowering a little bit, right. And
Okay.
it was stopped, which
Okay, wait,
Yeah.
I'm just asking.
Right.
How far did the road get down then?
it was only a couple of inches.
Okay,
I know after the July flooding, we didn't add material in front, and all we did was right there at the culvert.
But you brought material in.
Well, there was no road there, right at the culvert, there was no.
Well, I don't understand really what you're saying, because you were looking at the culvert from in front of my house. You were on my house's side of the culvert. That's where the work was being done. So you were getting there somewhere. And what I'm saying is that what material could have been used on that stretch of road in front of my house to be pushed down instead of bringing in material, if only I had been afforded a conversation.
But that was, we just matched the existing road there, July, and I told you I had these as well, the original prints.
Right, which I wanted to see.
Yep.
You mentioned that back on July or June 21st that you had them, and I
Right.
haven't ever been able to see anything. And I'm not sure which original prints you're talking about from when.
73.
Okay. And so you're saying the road hasn't changed, that's what you said in the email that you sent me.
Right, yeah, and you
So you
could,
had a surveyor go out and,
no, it's off the original prints as-built when they built put that culvert in,
the lower culvert?
the large one.
Okay, so the culvert up at the top of my property that was replaced, the two culverts that was replaced after Irene, the road, the topography of my house starts high and it goes down low towards the end of 131. If you stand at the top of my property, you can look at Brook Road and you can see it rise with your naked eye, not follow the topography of the land. You can actually see it rise.
Okay, am I looking up or looking down?
You're looking up at the top of my property,
Right.
the small culverts down towards 131,
Well, you said if I was at the top of your property,
looking
Am I-
towards 131,
so I'm looking down?
right.
Okay, because I'm not sure, I just know that you live on the hill and I can picture it in my mind, okay.
Yeah.
So, looking down, you can see the road go up.
Right, you
Okay.
can see the road rise with your naked eye.
You think the road should be lower and this will solve problems?
Yes.
Okay.
There was never a problem before Irene.
And the road was lower then, by 3 feet?
Yeah, exactly.
Who raised it 3 feet?
You had everybody doing work to get the road
Okay, so it was
back up.
probably the state or somebody.
State,
the feds.
town people, I mean, everyone was pitching in, you remember.
Right, but I'm just saying, somebody told them at some point, it has to be like this.
No one told them anything. People were just doing things.
Yeah, okay.
To my knowledge.
Okay. So right now, what's the biggest problem?
Road water runoff, debris in my yard, the apron on my driveway much too high, water accumulating in my garage, water accumulating in my driveway.
Okay, so water accumulation in
And
the driveway,
debris.
plus the debris, okay. Have you thought of or would accept a drain in your driveway?
Until it gets clogged, then there's an issue. There's already a culvert at the end of the driveway, but it doesn't catch the water because of the way the road is much too high. I'm not saying I wouldn't, but once again, it's another Band-Aid.
Well, I'm just, to help
I
mitigate.
don't want Band-Aids.
Okay, but it would help mitigate at some point, even if we did put the road to where you want it.
If you brought the road back down to where it was, you would never see me again, even if I had an issue. Because if I was wrong, I wouldn't come back and tell you. But that's not the case.
Yeah, but we want the chance to say, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Could you drop it?
I would come back just so you could say that.
I don't think so. I don't think we could drop it 3 feet. Dave?
You
Are
sure
we
it
at
was
10
3
10
feet?
minutes yet?
What's that?
Are we at 10 minutes yet?
No.
Very close. Go ahead.
Just some of my thoughts, this has been ongoing for a long time. I came into it like a year and a half ago roughly, and there's been things that have taken place that should not have taken place, that we've discussed, not in open forum, and I don't think we should be discussing them here again tonight. I don't think right now tonight that we're gonna have any constructive outcome of this meeting here. I think it's something that an engineer would need to look at. It's not just something we can say, we're gonna lower the road 3 feet, or we're gonna put a drain in and cure the problem. It needs some more thought put into it than that. I just don't think we should put in a lot of time into this discussion tonight, right here now.
Mr. Vullo, if we hired somebody to come up and look,
If I can just address,
sure,
this has been 12 years, and for you not to give it time is not right. Okay, just because you haven't been involved in it for 12 years, I've lived with it for 12 years. Some of the members of the board are familiar with it. And quite frankly, to just squash me at 10 minutes when this has been an ongoing issue, it just doesn't seem fair. So I just wanted to make that point.
And I do know more than you think, because I've been by your residence, I know where you live. I've seen it in the last 2 heavy downpours, and I really don't see that much of an issue from what I saw, but.
So, and I should be expected to clean up all the road debris that accumulates now in my yard and on my driveway every single time? So that's what you're saying. You're saying it's not an issue. So in your
No.
mind, there's really no way forward, because what I'm saying is not accurate.
I'm not saying that at all.
I'm not having a problem with it.
That last rainstorm we had, there was washouts everywhere around town here where debris washed out in the roads. If you have some at your house, it's not the only place.
No one is saying that it's the only place. And once again, you're not focusing on the issue that this has been going on for so many years.
I realize that.
Okay?
And we're not gonna take care of this tonight here. It's
No, we're not
gonna
gonna solve it. We're
I
not solving
can
the problem
sense-
tonight.
I get a sense of where the board is going with this. And we won't go through things in open forum now, okay? But there's a lot of history that we probably should talk about. There's a lot that has been done wrong with regards to this. And there's been a lot of things that was turned a blind eye to that shouldn't have been.
But I would like to see us move forward and find a solution.
Thank you.
And that's,
So if we
Past
talk
and
to the
past.
state about what we can do, and talk to an engineer about what could be done, are you okay with that? If, because they're gonna wanna do a site visit and be on your property.
Sure. Todd Eaton was already out, who works for the state. I invited the town manager to come to that meeting, and he wasn't able to or didn't. But the takeaway was, everything that I've been saying to you, at least to me, Todd Eaton reiterated. So, yeah, I mean, you wanna get some state people out there, it would be great if Todd could come back out. I mean, he's been out there already.
Okay. As long as you're okay if we talk about it and try to,
Absolutely, I mean, I want a resolution.
Okay.
I'm tired of fighting this. And I'm tired of being the bad guy because I have to fight for it.
can you talk to Mr. Eaton?
Yep, I can have him come back.
All right.
Even if he doesn't come back, even if you just talk to him and get his suggestions and his point of view. And then we can see about, do we hire somebody to come out and give us cost estimate or what they think?
All right, so that's what, we'll get that started and see where it goes.
So what's the next
You think 3 feet?
agenda?
Well, he's gonna talk to Mr. Eaton, he's gonna get back to us at the next month's meeting, and that's when we'll discuss, do we need to hire somebody to come out and tell us how to do it correctly, and that we can lower it 3 feet and still
So I'll be
have the
back
road
next-
serviceable and fine.
So I'll be back next meeting and we'll discuss that,
Sure.
okay?
All right,
you.
okay, if you're good with that, we'll move on to Article 5. And
Thank you,
discuss and possible approval of concert on the green.
Sorry, I was writing.
No problem.
But yes, we had the Concert on the Green series. I think I gave you the
gave us-
request
yep.
from the Cavendish Community and Conservation Association for the Concert on the Green series, which would start July 9th. And these would be Wednesdays at 6 p.m.
I move that we approve. Oh, can I make a motion now? Or
Yeah, everybody,
make a motion that we approve the concerts on the green?
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Alright,
Alright,
Opposed? None? Okay, with 6, discussion and adoption of the yearly local emergency management plan.
Yep, so this is the yearly document that we have to send in. The only real change on this was the emergency management director going from Bob Glidden to Chris Marks and updated his email and phone number information. That's pretty much the only.
because I'm like this. Underneath Proctorville Fire Chief, it says Rebecca Narrow. I'm assuming that her name's supposed to be going over to the right, it should say Cavendish Fire
Right.
Chief.
Correct?
Okay, I'm just, cause I don't want anybody looking down and thinking Rebecca's the fire chief in Proctorsville and getting confused.
Yep.
I know she's fire chief in Cavendish, so it's not listed, so,
I will.
thank you.
Change both those before I send it in.
I also have a question. Under the, it's under resources about who is authorized to make emergency purchases. There was a limit on there of $5,000 for you, Rick. I was just wondering if you felt that was enough. It seems like our emergencies are getting bigger and bigger, and
It's kind of covered in the procurement policy that we have, and that's just the limit that I would normally have unless it's under emergency, direct emergency where you have to get something done and no time for board approval, but, some things, when it's for purchases, can wait that amount of time.
so you feel comfortable with this? Okay.
Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
All right.
You would need a motion.
Can I make
So I need a motion to approve.
I'll make,
I'll make a motion we approve with the changes that we just made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This right here.
Yep.
Opposed, none. All right, discussion and possible approval of the sewer budget and set rate.
liquor license?
Liquor license first, okay.
So we have 3 new licenses for approval. If I can find them, I'm pretty sure it's 3. I think it's a first class hotel license for Cavendish Point and Castle, third class hotel license for Cavendish Point and Castle, and an outside consumption permit for Cavendish Point and Castle Hotel.
What's your pleasure?
I make a motion we approve the liquor licenses, the 3 that were just read.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none? Okay, now we'll go to discussion, possible approval of sewer budget and set rate.
This is something I hadn't gotten to until just recently. We really haven't had a good solid sewer budget in a few years. Basically, it's running in the red. That's just normal operating expenses. If you can see here, I have a new budget where the total expenditures of $215,053. But in order to cover that, our revenue sources have to go up. And it would be, on here, it would be a 7.5% increase, which is across the board. So that would be the base fee for a normal sewer going to $103.48 from $96.25 per quarter. Also unmetered, which go from $101.25 to $108.84. Inactive also going up to 7.5% from $35 to $37.63, and the quarterly rate for Historical Society going from 15 to 16. So. And this is just sewer. Water is similar, just so you know, it's not,
Right.
wouldn't be the total. And then-
Any questions? No, what's your pleasure?
Nobody wants to touch this.
Well,
one
I can wait because I'm not on the sewer, so. If this is what the town needs and we're in the red, then I'll make a motion that we set the sewer rate at a 7.5% increase across the board.
I'll second it.
Enthusiasm.
Sorry, everybody.
Right, all in favor?
Aye.
Right, opposed? None.
And I do wanna add that just maybe in the next year or two, when we do add these new meters in, maybe we can readjust and more of it would be to the metered rate. But currently, we don't have a lot of income from the metered rate because the meters don't work.
Okay.
We'll move on to, so no any questions for that, we'll move on to old business. Update on Grevens Field.
Well, after a year and a half of them telling me this is the perfect project for this grant, we did not get this grant. Which is a blessing and not. You know, they're not gonna pay for it. Their whole goal was to turn that and dig it down, possibly make it a better acting floodplain, which is great. The problem is when we did the study, it wasn't gonna have the impact enough like they thought originally, because it already acts as a floodplain. We all know that, it floods.
It's only like a foot above the river, how could they dig it down?
It was just gonna, yeah, I don't know, but that was the
Okay.
original plan. But the silver lining is, we can now do with that property what we want to see there, within our flood hazard regulations. But, you know, we can do some work there and have some open field, activities, you know, you can have stuff like that, you can still do plantings. We just have to start the discussion on how to get there and what we wanna see.
To join in with the next, can we make beaver huts there? And
Good.
Can they be on the walking path?
have a little beaver colony going, just saying.
But I'm not sure how to proceed. I would think that it would be nice in using this open forum if the board so wishes to have kind of a committee come together that would propose stuff
Yeah,
through the
townspeople
select
did.
board.
Yeah, does
Yeah.
anybody have any ideas?
If anybody's
Yeah,
willing to really take that and go and not go like we did 20 years ago when I was there and just build whatever you wanted, but a little bit more structured through the select board anyways. So reach out to me anyways.
yeah.
We're good with that, we'll move on to 1A, beaver issues and discussion and possible vote. That was yours, Zach.
Yeah, sorry, I wouldn't wait to be calling it, thank you. I appreciate, the board re-looking at this, appreciate Shannon for, adding this back onto the agenda. I think, I wish I'd known about the last meeting, I know that, I had sent some communications prior to the meeting about the beavers. I think we could have avoided this redo had we been here to kind of give some counterpoint to some of the information provided, but, I think a couple things, one, just making sure, and I believe I sent a letter, hopefully everybody received that. The property is a class 2 wetland, which, you know, semi-limits what you can do without permitting. It also raises the threshold of what you look at with, you know, wildlife that's in wetlands, especially if the complaint is that the wetland is wet. One of the issues of why beaver trapping is not open season right now is because there are baby beavers in the lodges. So if you were to trap the parent beavers right now outside of season, essentially you abandon those babies to starve to death, which is not the best way to go as an animal. You know, that's why the legal season happens in the fall and winter months. So I'm hoping that we can reconsider this, especially now I've heard rumblings that we've been working with the Beaver Association and with Black River Action about getting a baffle in there to help mitigate the concerns of the other property owner. And from what I've been told, the property owner is interested in pursuing this. Black River Action is working on funding so that it would be at no cost to us. And so if that would mitigate it, and it sounds like the other property owner is willing to go through with the baffle, I'm just hoping that we could rescind the trapping permission on town property in the meantime, if we are moving, looking to move forward with the baffle. I'm not sure that there's really any reason to keep the permission to kill the beavers while they have babies in the lodges. And just also that I think I was quoted as the neighbor who likes ducks. I brought up the ducks in my original message just because the wood duck in particular is a semi-protected species with their habitat and their nesting on that land. But it's more that it's a vibrant ecosystem that I think the entire community enjoys, especially those who get out and walk Main Street. We've got very rare species down there, green herons. It's an incredible ecosystem that you don't usually find downtown and that you can't usually see and appreciate. That goes way beyond that. I mean, we've got dozens of species of fish down there taking care of the mosquitoes. The last time this happened, basically, and I sent before and after pictures, when the beaver lodge and dam were removed, it became this mud flat for a couple of years. And the mud really bred, like my wife said, mosquitoes, and it was just an eyesore down there. There was nothing to look at, nothing to, enjoy as you're walking the streets there. The beavers, it's a prime habitat for them, so they're just gonna come back like they did. So just killing them every, 10 years or so I don't think that's the sustainable answer. I think mitigating the habitat to make the landowners happy that don't like the water on their wetland is probably a better route to go. So anyway, I appreciate y'all re-looking at this issue. Sounds like Ms. Stetner will have beaver deceiver plans hopefully by the next meeting to take a look at, as well as the funding mechanisms for putting those in to mitigate the issue. So thanks again.
What is
Bob,
your-
I have a
Yeah, go ahead.
comment. I think, as you know, I live along the corridor there with the canal. And I think depending where you live, I live next to the Methodist church, we don't have that experience, wonderful wildlife experience that you did. So like 50 years ago when I bought my house, we lived 25 years with all the foliage there, the stagnant water, tons, infestation of mosquitoes at our end, okay? We tried zappers, we tried everything else. We had Rich come down and we had permission, could we fill in, the canal by us? Which we did. We took out all the foliage and we filled it in, which cut down, we couldn't even sit on our porch, that's how bad it was. So I can understand, so, we were happy with that. But honestly, 50 years ago, I didn't even know about the beavers. I mean, we just knew we had the stagnant water and the mosquitoes were horrible, which can be dangerous, So if there are people along that route that have that complaint, it is understandable. You don't have it. I mean, I saw your beautiful pictures. We don't have any little duckies and everything. So it may be different for different people. I agree with Shannon's proposal, and I hope we could do something because I know you love it there. But it was, for me, all the way down at the end, not a pleasant experience. So we did have mosquitoes.
Is it okay to respond? I don't know.
Yeah,
what that
definitely.
is.
Sure.
So my concern, Sandra, is that if we take out the wetland, that what you used to have is what the whole thing becomes. It becomes stagnant water. Whereas right now, I hope what you did was able to still be helpful to your area. I don't know if that's changed.
Yeah, no, it's fine. We'll get some water there. And I'm not saying
Yeah.
that we should do anything with the beavers. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that where you live along there, you may have a different experience and not the nice experience that you have. I know I didn't. And I don't know about behind the church. I'm sure we're so close. I'm sure they have the same experience as I am.
And Kelly Stetner is planning on bringing in this person to check for the beaver deceiver or whatever the
Yeah.
piece may be. So my hope is that that person would know more about
Yeah.
that experience overall in this longer term plan, my guess is that taking out the wetland that at least is down near our house would make it be what it used to be at your house at the whole space.
Yeah, and I don't know what the
So-
solution is, I'm just saying that we didn't have the species there to kill the mosquitoes.
Yeah.
It wasn't there. So however we get to, I hope it solves
Yeah.
your problem, doesn't cause me a problem.
And
No,
probably-
I hope it solves your
Probably
problem.
50 years ago, they didn't have the wetland classifications
Mhm.
quite like they do now.
Yeah.
But it is a state registered class 2
Mhm.
wetland. So in order to do any modifications to the land, even to mow out there, you have to have special wetland variance permits.
Yeah.
Which is something that's changed, especially since Irene. But it's also it's a major floodplain. It's also designated as a major floodplain, which makes it, the more vegetation you have out there, the more it slows down
Yeah.
the flow.
We didn't fill it until like 20 years ago,
Yeah.
because that's when we moved up here permanently. So I hope there's a solution that works for you
Yeah.
and everyone along there.
And I do want to make sure the board knows, when we were working with Kelly and Cheryl Gerdak, Cheryl has said that she has no intent on trapping, so sending that is.
It's up to you.
Need a motion? Need a
Just need a
motion?
motion.
I'll make a motion to rescind the decision, the vote at the last meeting to have the beavers trapped.
I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None. Stop.
Thank you very much.
And Kelly will be here probably next, kind of a presentation next
Cool.
month on something that can be done that's, well, non-lethal, so.
All right, manager's report.
I don't have much other than anybody that wants to be on this committee, please get in touch with me, for Grevin Field. It's nice that we're offered the opportunity to do something with this field that we wanna do. And I know a lot of people have that place in their heart and they wanna see something done, so. And I also did wanna mention, I have not got a schedule for our paving yet. Fuller, who is, as you know, paving in Ludlow, has not come back to me with any idea of when they would start. We're, in our bid packet, they couldn't start until July 1st anyways, but I'm hoping that we get plenty of notice that I can give everybody notice of when they're coming.
No, worst case scenario, just put it on the website.
Yeah. But I can't imagine them just jumping in, they're not quite done in Ludlow.
Yeah,
Right,
but if it has to be short order,
Yeah.
put it on the website and at least people can jump there if they start seeing all the work being done.
all right. Other business, Dave,
I'm good.
Shannon,
I am good.
Sandy, Mike,
What did you call, oh. What did you call
I'm
it?
good.
What did you call it?
I'm good. We'll move on to executive session, legal matter. We'll move in the other room.